I was a city dweller once. I always saw myself leading an urban lifestyle. I won't go into specifics, but I couldn't handle even the slightest sounds following a really terrible event. I started to despise noise altogether. I was diagnosed with an uncommon case of phonophobia by my psychiatrist. When your foot goes to sleep, you know that tingling sensation. It felt like that, but it was always there in my chest, as if my body was preparing for an impending event. Every slamming door and every automobile horn felt like a direct shock to my nerves. I couldn't continue to live that way. I discovered a cottage tucked away in the Pacific Northwest about 3 years ago. For reasons you'll soon understand, I won't reveal the precise location, although it was in Oregon. With hardly any cell service, no traffic, and few neighbors, it appeared ideal. However, the absence of noise was what truly drew me in. Only I and the silence were there. I felt like I might feel safe for the first time in months. The cabin itself was nice despite its small size. With its robust stone fireplace and heavy wooden beam, you could tell it had been constructed to last. When I initially entered, the place had an earthy, almost cozy smell that reminded me of an old ski lodge, a combination of pine and old books. The closest neighbor lived down a short dirt path about 10 minutes away. I didn't immediately meet her. I spent the first few days simply enjoying the quiet. Rather than sirens, I heard birds as I woke up. The wind rustling through the trees was the only sound I could hear at night. I felt as though the entire world had stopped and I was at last able to breathe. A knock on the door occurred approximately a week after I moved in. I had to get used to those knocks because the cabin evidently lacked a doorbell. Anticipating to see my neighbor, I opened the door. She was the one. She was an elderly woman, most likely in her late 60s, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you and strangely long gray hair, as if she had just walked out of a Hallmark film. She clutched a basket of preserves. She told me she lived down the trail and introduced herself as Michelle. 10 minutes didn't seem like much, but you could get lost searching for firewood alone because of how dense the woods were. She was frank, not particularly unpleasant. She greeted me as I entered the woods and held the basket out to me, almost thrusting it into my face. I accepted it and thanked her, but there was something strange about her, as if she wasn't accustomed to socializing. She continued to look at me as if I might say something else. I simply grinned. Then she said, in a tone that could be used as a casual reminder, "Always keep your wits sharper than your axe, your windows closed and your lanterns full." It wasn't counsel. It served as a warning. I waited for her footsteps to diminish as I watched her leave. They didn't. Not for at least 45 seconds. Although it is uncommon in Oregon, a thunderstorm did come in that evening. I settled up with a book, lighted some candles, and made an effort to ignore the flickering power. In fact, I enjoyed the solitude. Strangely, the storm's roar felt calming. Naturally, though, such tranquility was short-lived. After several hours, someone knocked on the door. Not a knock, please. Banging. My heart almost stopped. After a moment of hesitation, I picked up a flashlight and looked through the window. Michelle was the one, cradling a flashlight soaked to the bone. Before I could even answer the door, she started talking. "I noticed someone close to your woodpile. You ought to be aware of it." I felt sick to my stomach. I went out into the porch and shone my light into the rain, but all I could see were trees. I inquired if she was certain. She nodded, looking off into the trees as if she thought someone would come out. Everything about it felt off, unfazed by the rain. She turned and left without saying anything else. I didn't realize something until I closed the door. How could she have spotted someone close to my woodpile if her residence was 5 minutes away? She must have already been on my land. I didn't get much sleep that night. I heard a branch snapping just outside my bedroom window. As I was beginning to nod off, I listened and froze. I finally made my way to the window, half expecting to see nothing. I didn't at first, then I did. Michelle, with my body inclined away from my house, I stood at the edge of the woods. It was obvious that she had long, knotted hair. I tried to see more, but it was impossible in the moonlight alone. Then she started turning. I ducked with my heart pounding. I paused before peering once more. She had left. I remained awake till dawn. I had just begun to unwind when there was another knock. Gentle, almost tentative. I slipped over to the door and looked through the glass, and I froze at that moment. Michelle wasn't the one. A man was there, bald, burly, and sporting a big beard. I suppressed my need to shout. I backed off slowly, locked the bathroom door, and dialed 911. I was on the phone when the front door began to thump louder, as if something huge were slamming into it. Then there was the sound of glass breaking, splintering wood. He was in there. I listened while holding my breath. There were never any footsteps near the restroom. Rather, he appeared to be destroying the establishment. Then there was silence. He was long gone when the cops swiftly arrived. They conducted a pitiful search without going into the woods. They grudgingly consented to go to Michelle's house when I pleaded with them to do so. However, it was deserted when we arrived. For decades, I lost it and insisted that they look for squatters. They declined, claimed that no evidence of recent occupation was found, claimed it was my risk, not theirs, to live in the woods. They then departed. It was the final night I stayed in the cottage. I hardly slept, but nothing happened. I was gone by dawn. I have no idea who Michelle was. My more superstitious friends believe she was a spirit attempting to keep me safe. I don't think that's true. I believe that two individuals had been squatting in that deserted cabin, and they decided to attack me for some reason. What still baffles me, though, and keeps me up at night, is why she bothered to alert me if she intended to break in. I doubt I'll ever find out,